Hey everyone, so today we're going to be covering the SHSAT Mathematics Practice section of the official 2021 practice exam. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're being asked to simplify this expression. So the way that we're going to do this is we know that negative 3.8 is the larger number. So first we're going to look at these two terms and then we can bring in the negative 1.1. So I'm going to actually treat this as just 3.8 minus 2.5. And then we know that 2.3. And then we know that whatever the result is of this, it'll be negative because this negative is in fact larger than this positive. So this would evaluate to 1.5, but we know that it's actually going to be negative 1.5 in this case. And then we're subtracting negative 1.1 from that. So that would turn into negative 1.5 plus 1.1. And we can apply the same logic here. So we would do 1.5 minus 1.1, which is 0.4. But we know that since negative 1.5 is larger than 1.1, this would actually be negative. So the final answer would be negative 0.4. Okay, let's move on to 59. Okay, so angle M and angle R are supplementary. So, and the measure of angle R is 5 times the measure of angle M. So R and M are supplementary like this, and R is 5 times greater than angle M. So now we're being asked what the measure of angle R is in degrees. So we can set up an algebraic equation. So we know that R plus M must be equal to 180 degrees because these angles are supplementary. And furthermore, we know that R, the measure of angle R, is 5 times the measure of angle M. So now we can substitute this into our first equation. So we have 5M plus M equals 180. So 6M equals 180, and then M is 30. So we know that if M is 30, then R would have to be 150 because these are supplementary angles. So that would be the measure of R and our answer. Okay, now let's look at 60. So a juice mixture contains 3 1/16 gallon of apple juice and 3/40 gallons of cranberry juice. How many gallons of apple juice per gallon of cranberry juice does this mixture contain? Okay, so we can set this up as a proportion. So we know that the mixture, so for every 3 1/16 gallon of, I'll represent apple juice as AJ, we have 3 to the 40th gallons of cranberry juice. And we're being asked for how many gallons of apple juice per 1 gallon of cranberry juice does the mixture contain. So we're solving for the question mark. And we can do this by cross multiplication. So we would get the number of gallons of apple juice is 3/16. So I'm cross multiplying. So 3/16 times 1, and then divided by 3/40. So that would be 316 times 40 over 3, which is 10 over 4, or 5 over 2. So 5 over 2 gallons of apple juice would be the answer. Oh, and it's asking to express this as a decimal. So it would be 2.5 gallons. Okay. So now I think we're going to go on to 61. So Mr. Chan's lawn grows 2 1/8 inches every 2 weeks. He mows the lawn every 2 weeks and cuts off the top 1 3/4 inches of lawn. Okay, if Mr. Chan's lawn was 4 inches tall at the beginning of the season, how many inches tall in decimal form is Mr. Chan's lawn after 8 weeks? Okay, so we start at 4 inches, and we know that the lawn grows 2 1/8 inches every 2 weeks, but he also cuts off 1 3/4 inches every 2 weeks. So then we can calculate the rate of growth as the amount that the grass grows minus the amount that he cuts off. And this is just a case of mixed fractions, so we would multiply 2 times 8 plus 1, so that's 17 over 8, and then this would just be 7 over 4. So let's get a common denominator here. So we would have 17 over 8 minus 7 times 2 over 4 times 2. So that's 17 minus 14 over 8, or 3/8. So it grows, so we know that the lawn grows by 3/8 of an inch. So every 2 weeks. So 3/8 inch every 2 weeks. Okay. And so after 8 weeks, so I'll do total growth. So it's going to be 3/8, and then if that's every 2 weeks, then we're going to multiply by 4 to get the total growth of 8 weeks. And that would just be right, because we know that if 3 over 8, if it grows 3 over 8 inches every 2 weeks, then after 8 weeks it'll grow 3 over 8 times 4. So that will be 3 over, so let's see, this is 1, 2. So 3 over 2 inches. And we have to add that to the starting height of 4 inches to get the final height, which is 3 over 2 plus 8 over 2, which is 11 over 2. And we're asked to express that in decimal form. So that would be 5.5 inches. Okay. All right, now 62. Okay, so we have a survey of 110 families. And so the table above shows the number of children in each of 110 families. And what is the median number of children in these families? So we see that, for example, 45 families have 0 children, and then 32 families have 1 child, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks like as the number of children increases, the amount of families that have that amount of children decreases. And we're being asked for the median number of children. So basically, since we have 110 families, the median would occur at 110 over 2 approximately. So that's 55. And when it's an even number, it would be, I think, 55 to 56, like somewhere in that range. So if there are 45 families with 0 children, then and then 32 families with 1 child, then the median would occur when there is 1 child, right? Because this adds to 77. So the first 77 families have, the first 45 of those 77 have 0 children, and then the 55 or 56 family will have 1 child. And therefore the median would be 1 child. So that would be your answer. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to 63. I guess we're moving on to multiple choice. Okay, so Mr. Jones has 550 goats, which is 10% more than Mr. King has. How many more goats does Mr. Jones have than Mr. King? So first I'm just going to set this up as an equation. So I'm going to say that the number of goats Mr. Jones has is J, and we know that that is 10% more, so 1.10, right? That's 10% more than Mr. King has. So J is the number of goats that Jones has, and K is the number of goats that Mr. King has. And we know that Mr. Jones has 550 goats, so we can plug that in for J. Okay, now we can solve for the number of goats that King has. So that would be, let's see, are you allowed a calculator on this section? I'm going to assume not. Okay, so 550 divided by 1.10, we can, let's see, how could we do that? We can multiply the numerator and denominator by 10, right? So that would be the same thing. And then 11 divided by 55 is just 5, so it would be 500. Okay, so we know that King has 500 goats, and we know Jones has 550 goats. So we know we're being asked how many more goats does Jones have than King. So it would be 50. So that is answer choice A. Okay, now 64. So if 2y over x minus y over 2x is equal to blank over 2x, and we're told that x is not equal to 0, then what expression is represented by this blank? Okay, so it looks like in order to subtract this fraction and this fraction, we need a common denominator of 2x. So in order to do that, we would have to take this fraction and multiply the numerator and denominator by 2, right? So 2 times 2y, 2 times x, minus y over 2x is equal to blank over 2x. And since the numerators are all the same now, we can just focus on the, since the denominators are all the same, we can focus on the numerator. So we have 2 times 2y minus y, right? I'm just looking at this top half now, is equal to our box. So our box is just 4y minus y, which is 3y. So it would be answer choice G. Okay. All right, 65. So we have a figure and PQRS. So let's see. So that's this thing right here, PQRS. So that's a square. And then point S right here is the center of the circle, right? And points P and R are on the circle, right? Okay. So P and R are on the circle, S is the center of the circle. Now, if the area of the square is 4 square centimeters, so we know that the area of PQRS is 4 square centimeters. What is the area in square centimeters of the shaded quarter of the circle? So area of shaded. Okay. So let's look at the figure. All right, so we're being asked for this shaded area right here. Okay, so we know that the area of the square PQRS is 4 centimeters squared. So from here we can calculate the lengths of the square. So we know that the area of a square is just equal to like its length times its length. So we know that that area is 4 centimeters squared, and therefore if we take the square root of both sides, then we know that the length would just be 2 centimeters. So this is 2 centimeters, and this is 2 centimeters. And we also know that PS is just the radius of our circle. So we can calculate the area of the circle, the full circle, as pi r squared. And we know that PS is just the radius, and it's 2 centimeters. So this would be pi 2 squared, which is just 4 pi. Okay, so that's the area of the whole circle. And then this shaded region is just 1/4 of the circle. So I can say that the area of shaded region is just going to be 4 pi over 4, which is just pi. So pi should be our answer. Let's see if that is an answer choice. And it is. So that would just be answer choice B. All right, I think we'll stop there and we'll continue in the next video.